We're going to Geist of St. Trap.
The Geist of St. Trap. All right, there we are, Grand Prix Baltimore. This is round 15 on GG's Live. I'm Sheldon Menery, along with Brian Kibler. Guest commentary. We still have Steve Sadin, Rashad Two Soups Miller, and Nate Price of Progress over in the control booth. You see Dave Shields there on the left, Alex MAJLATON on the right.
Don't know who on the die roll here, but
we're going to find out relatively. Dave looks like he's thinking about his hand.
Looks like a pretty good hand.
Yeah. Did I only see 2 land?
Yeah, he has 2 land, but he has a think twice. And he has 2 mana leaks, which give him a decent amount of early defense. The problem being on the draw, they're a lot worse.
See, obviously Alex won the draw, and it's Gravecrawler action right away.
What's that? The diagraph goal here. It's actually
diagraph goal. Sorry.
It's somewhat relevant because the Gravecrawler actually has 1 toughness. So if
Tragic Slip
has Tragic Slip. I mean, you don't really want to Tragic Slip a Gravecrawler because things come back. But like things like Curse of Death's Hold can neutralize that completely. Dave Shields has he won Grand Prix Dallas, I think, last year playing Cobblade. He has a tendency to play control decks like this in top level events. So Alex with a Mortar Pod on 2, not the biggest aggressive start he can have. Looks like he's another goal. I actually think there's a very good chance that Shields will Mana Lake this.
He's got 2 in his hand.
Yeah, he Mana Lakes it. Doesn't want that much pressure to be down just yet. And just the 2/2 probably isn't going to cut it in terms of offense here. Shields is getting to Forbidden Alchemy mana with a very high life total.
Nope.
So Shields with leaving his mana up. Diagraph Ghoul comes in, dropping Shields to 14. So there's Drolf's Messenger. That's what Alex would have liked to have had in play last turn, but that gets mana leaked as well. So Shields still a comfortable 14 life.
See on the screen, Eric, the life totals are switched around. We'll get those fixed right away.
Quite right now. The players were on the wrong sides, but Shields looks like he has a Curse of Death's Hold, a Tragic Slip, a Think Twice. I'm not sure if I saw an Alchemy.
Now, Drownyard. Dave's got to be kind of careful about the Drownyard with the Gravecrawlers.
Right. If he gets a curse into play, he can Drownyard with Abandon. Although even then, the Diregraph captains are able to keep the Gravecrawlers alive. But right now, it looks like Alex's hand is pretty poor for this matchup. With the pair of Mortar Pods, those are very good in creature-based matchups, but not really what he wants here. So Shields, it looks like Curse of Death's Hold, Tragic Slip, Forbidden Alchemy, Think Twice in his hand. He goes for the Alchemy.
We talk a lot about Magic being a resource management game. If you can get into your deck with cards like Forbidden Alchemy, you can get deeper and deeper in your deck, and you might not play all 35 of those cards, but you have your pick of the 35 cards.
Yeah, one of the very interesting things about the blue-black control deck that's popular in Standard right now is that every single slot in your deck matters. Like having one of this versus one of 2 different things versus having 2 of one. Just the amount of selection that you get from going through your deck with Forbidden Alchemies means that you see those cards a lot. In the average game, you see more than half of your deck because of Forbidden Alchemy and Think Twice. So little things can make a huge difference in terms of your matchup percentages, just based on those decisions because of your selectivity.
The Reanimator decks that we've seen a little bit this weekend do the same thing. You have to face the fluting and whatnot.
Yeah, they can
burn through.
Right, they just keep digging. they tend to want to have redundancy on their big effects because that's the sort of thing that they're trying to do over and over. Whereas blue-black is looking to have a bunch of possible answers to different situations.
There we see Dave with the curse that's going to slow the zombies down a little bit.
The germs take fire at Dave's face, putting him to 10 and now 8, I believe. But now Dave is in a pretty solid spot.
And Alex has really got to get him onto the ropes really fast.
Yeah, I'm trying to see what's in Alex's hand. I see it looks like a blue card. The only blue cards I know in his deck are images. And Shields just passed this turn once again. Shields with the think twice. And finds another think twice. Takes the damage.
Like you said, now that the curse is out, the drown yard is a little freer to go after Alex's library.
Though it's not entirely clear that Shields wants to be drown yarding Alex yet. Generally, you want to be drown yarding yourself to find the forbidden alchemies and think twices and spells to flashback with Snapcaster Mage until you get to a point that the game's completely stable.
Obviously, Dave's deck is very mana hungry, so good for him that he's hit his land drops. But sifting through your deck, once again, is going to give you that opportunity.
The forbidden alchemies, the think twices, you end up seeing a lot more cards than you would otherwise. So Snapcaster Mage comes down. Going to be trying to block that Diagraph Pool. I'm guessing some of those cards that have been stuck in Alex's hand are Guess, Verdicts, or Tragic Slips, so I don't think there's going to be blocking. There's the Guess Verdict. Still has 3 open to pay for Mana Leak, but this will enable Dave Shields to play Tragic Slip with Morbid, so he can kill the Diagraph Pool anyway.
Obviously, he's going to shoot it at Dave's head.
And it does look like that's a Phantasmal Image in Alex's hand. I'm a little surprised he hasn't cast that. I guess he's trying to save it so he can copy a Geralf's Messenger, but the amount of pressure that he'd be able to put on if he just copied his Diagraph Pool earlier seems like it might have given him the bit more damage that he needs. Shields is only at 6 life. So we're seeing a Forbidden Alchemy. And there's a Nihil Spellbomb. That's one of those situational one-ofs that Dave has that he can dig for.
Hey, we've seen some of the blue-black control this weekend playing Grave Titan, some playing Consecrated Sphinx. Mm-hmm. If you had gone that direction and played this deck, which would the 2 of those would you?
I think you actually might want one of each, as we were saying before, because there are a lot of situations where Grave Titan and Sphinx obviously have their pros and cons. In the mirror match, depending on whether people are playing Go for the Throat or Doomblade, Grave Titan can be much harder to actually remove than Consecrated Sphinx. And similarly, in a matchup like this, Grave Titan is dramatically better because it leaves behind the zombies, even if your opponent has something like a Guess Verdict. So Shields does have Consecrated Sphinxes in his deck, but for this matchup, I imagine he wishes they were Grave Titans.
Flashing back Forbidden Alchemy.
Yep. And this is the point in the game where the blue-black deck just starts to take total control. Once you're actually at the point that you can use your mana to just keep digging for quality cards, it's very difficult for most decks to come back.
Well, with the mortar pods in play, really what Alex needs to do sometimes between now and the time he loses is cast 6 guys. Or resolve 6 guys. Right.
Well, they have to be guys who can live through Curse of Death's Hold.
Right.
And what he really wants are Geralf's Messengers, because Geralf's Messengers, right now he has enough mana to cast a Geralf's Messenger and not have it get mana leaked. We do see a Dissipate in Dave Shields' hand. That's actually the original Mirage Dissipate. So
Dave's pimping a little bit.
That's a Grave Crawler. That's just going to die.
if that's some kind of bait.
I'm confused. Yep, is destroyed. Oh, he wants Morbid, maybe? No, maybe he just forgot about the curse. I don't know. That was a little strange. It's possible he was trying to bait Shields into actually playing something. Maybe he thinks he's in a bad enough position that he has to just sort of go for it and hope that Shields may bite. We're seeing a flashback. Think twice, and now.
Looks
like Alex is starting to drown.
What's Shields' motivation here to get this game over as quickly as he possibly can? Well, I mean, he can't win games as quickly as Alex can.
It's important for the blue-black control player to win the games as fast as they're really able to, because they're the one under pressure if it comes to time. It's going to be very rare that there's a game that the blue-black zombie deck is winning that they can't finish in a short period of time. Whereas, say Dave wins this game, but it takes a long time, then Alex wins the next game. It's going to be very difficult for Dave to win the match because the deck operates pretty slowly. Then again, after sideboarding, he does have more ways that actually give him the ability to close out games quickly. He has a Worm Coil and Batter Spell, which are both very, very good cards for this sort of matchup. There's a Captain. And now, that's actually really powerful, because the Gravecrawler with the Curse, every single black mana drains for 1.
Yes.
The Tragic Slip takes it out. And Milieu.
Oh, there's Messenger right on top.
That was Messenger and Captain are two of the better cards Alex can draw right now, and there went one of each.
Obviously, dissipates really significant against the Messenger.
Yes. Well, the messenger against Gravecrawler dissipate matters a lot. The Messenger it won't come back from a Mana Leak right now because that resolved.
Sure.
But yeah, in terms of actually keeping it, countering it at this point, because Alex has so much mana. But yeah, if Alex is able to resolve a Messenger, I think he actually could just kill Dave. He plays Messenger, Dave loses the life, and there goes another one to the mill, and then Mortar Pod picks it up, shoots, picks it up, shoots. So yeah, a Geralf's Messenger at any point resolving is essentially lethal.
Shields has more mana than he knows what to do with.
High Priest. Doesn't do very much right now. Though Shields also does have that Nihil Spellbomb winning, so
right.
The Undying wouldn't actually necessarily come back. I'm a little surprised. I don't know how many flashback cards Shields has used, but I am a little surprised that he's milling Alex rather than himself. If he's used most of his flashback, then milling Alex makes sense. But if he still has a reasonable concentration of alchemies in his deck, then...
We saw him flashback 1.
Yes, I saw him flashback 1 alchemy, and I know he's flashbacked a couple Think Twices. There's a pile of blue cards right under the life total there that looks like maybe 3 or 4, so... But right now, he doesn't have that many answers in his hand. And it's going to take a while to mill Alex out.
Yeah, second Drown Yard at this point.
Oh yeah, that would definitely speed up the clock quite a bit.
He's playing 3 in his main deck. We've seen a lot of the decks play 2.
I think two has been standard for a long time. I know Charles Gindy played 4 in his deck here today. There were a lot of players anticipated many of the top pros playing blue-black control, and sort of change their numbers around because of that.
Well, yeah, Gindy said he'd put 2 additional Ghost Quarters in the sideboard to run up to 29 lands through the mirror match.
Yeah, I know that Brad Nelson actually he was only playing the, I think, 2 Drown Yards main and some number of Ghost Quarters, but he specifically had a number of surgical extractions instead of Nihil Spellbombs, because it's so important to be able to surgical extraction your opponent's Drown Yard once you either mill one with theirs or you Ghost Quarter it so they just have no more.
Right. Dave Shields doing a quick count on Alex's library.
The Drown Yard equivalent of what are you at?
Yeah.
Looks like 17 cards left we've gotten from our
we got the report
crew.
from the Frontline Reporter.
And also That makes it 14. Ooh, is that Blue Sun Zenith?
Blue Sun Zenith could actually end the game targeting
There's
Alex.
a lot of landed play for Dave Shields. But it's kind of funny that you actually see like the brain geyser you out. That used to be a pretty common thing that happened with Stroke of Genius in the combo decks, and now it's just like
Dave with 15 lands in play, so he can actually stroke for stroke them for 12 after a mill.
Sword of Feast and Famine. That's kind of interesting. Dave seeing if this matters, basically, because he can't actually cast that Zenith for lethal yet, but I think with one more mill he can do it.
Right.
So it looks like he's gonna dissipate that. Yeah.
And we were talking about the relative speed at which this deck on the Drownyard plan mills somebody out a lot faster than the old Millstone decks used to take forever.
Right. Yeah. It's funny, because the term that everyone uses is "mill you out" because it comes from Millstone,
right?
Way back when, and Millstone decks were actually super popular for a long time in tournament Magic, and I think Wizards sort of moved away from that because it's. But here, Drownyard's a lot more interesting with a bunch of flashback cards. There's a lot more utility than just try and mill your opponent out. And it can also do that.
So after Alex draws, then Shields is going to.
Yeah, it looks like he's just going for all of it.
He's going to Blue Suns him for the win. That's the first time we've seen that this weekend. So Dave Shields up one game. There's a good shot of our game one winner on the Nephalia Drownyard finish with Blue Sun Zenith. So what kind of sideboard plan are we going to see from Shields here?
Shields has 2 copies of Surgical Extraction, a Spell Bomb, a Worm Coil, and 2 Batter Skulls, along with a Ratchet Bomb, a Phantasmal Image, and 2 Bloodline Keepers. There's a lot of options for this matchup.
You're certainly not going to have the room to bring them all.
I don't think all of that comes in, but I mean he has. I think Consecrated Sphinx and Liliana may come out because his opponent's deck, maybe not. He doesn't really have that many bad cards. I mean, as we saw that game, the game goes according to a certain script, and a lot of the counter magic and removal, all that's good against Alex's deck. That's basically all the blue black deck is. I think he definitely wants to keep, for instance, Curse in. We'll probably see that Blue Sun Zenith come in, despite the fact that it won game 1.
Right.
That's not really what it's there for. It's more for the control matchups. Seeing right here, it looks like that Blue Sun Zenith coming out. It looks like he was taking Dissipates out, which makes sense. He wants to go with a more proactive plan of being able to actually play, the powerful permanents that can take over the board. Worm Coil Engine, Batter Skull. I don't know if Bloodline Keeper will come in, but. Not the Extractions. No, he's getting the Bloodline Keepers, so they may be coming in too. Ooh, he doesn't have matching Dissipates. That Dissipate in the sideboard is not from Mirage.
We're gonna have to get him over to the dealers.
It's actually something that was a habit that I got into way back in the day, playing with Curse Scroll. I always wanted to have identical copies of everything in my deck.
So lands and everything.
Right. Every land picture I want to be the same. Every picture of every spell. Like nowadays, for instance, I would hate to play a foil something and a non-foil of the same card, just because it was so ingrained that it was important, and it sometimes can matter too. Like if for instance your opponent, it could happen in this matchup. If he distresses him.
Yep.
And you see their hand, it's like okay, well they're gonna write down what you have. And they may know that you had a foil copy of this or a non-foil one, or they notice the art, and then you play the other one.
Right.
You don't want to have to think about which one did they see.
So what? It doesn't look like Alex's sideboard is particularly saucy.
He doesn't have that much that's very exciting. He has Nihil Spellbombs, which are okay. They can help deal with some of the flashback shenanigans that Snapcaster Mage enables, and the Alchemies and Think Twices. He has 2 copies of Distress, 2 copies of Sword of War and Peace. Those are good, but again, not really amazing. And he has a lot of cards in his main deck that aren't particularly exciting here. He has Fume Spitter, Mortar Pod, Tragic Slip, Guest Verdict. All of those are kind of marginal. I think he's probably going to keep Guest Verdict in because it deals with the transformational type stuff like Batter Skull and Bloodline Keeper. But Tragic Slip and Mortar Pod probably want to come out. at least some number of mortar pods. Having a couple mortar pods in your deck is reasonable because it can help finish them.
Right.
But after that,
what do you think about the idea that Metamorph coming in if Dave plays Batterskull? I mean, we saw PB's own Batterskull be his ruin in that game with the very tricky shenanigans from Jackie Lee. What do you think that he's got enough dead cards that the Metamorph might be a...
I think that Metamorph's certainly better than some of the cards he has in his main deck. Not only to copy something like a Batterskull or a One Engine, but just as possibly more copies of his own messengers and captains. Being able to clone those is very, very powerful because those are just the synergy with clone effects and Undying is super, super powerful, as well as just the additional tribal lord powers. The more of them, the better.
The more, that's right.
It was like chanting no Delver, and you put down Slip Shorts and tap. No Delver.
Certainly, Alex going to be on the play in Game 2. Kind of where he wants to be. Although he was on the playing Game 1, really kind of a slow start for a deck of his caliber.
He drew a lot of the cards in his deck that don't do very much in the matchup. Like we were saying, the Mortar Paw, the Tragic Slip, we saw him with a number of cards in hand and just not really doing much. And he had that Phantasmal Image stranded in his hand the entire game.
Certainly not going to make much difference if he had actually copied something of his own. He didn't really have anything worth copying.
He had a diagraph pool. I was actually somewhat surprised that he didn't just try and copy his diagraph pool.
Makes sense.
Granted, that means that his copy can die to Tragic Slip. He's vulnerable to getting his board Black Sun Zenith. It may have been better to hold on to it in the hopes of being able to copy a Jarl's Message or something, which is the line that he took, but he just didn't end up getting that opportunity.
One of the problems with the image, of course, is he can't equip it with the mortar.
Right. Yeah. He ends up not being able to.
Now that's great when he's copying a messenger.
Right. Absolutely. It's like, oh well, I'll try more. Oh, it's dead anyway.
Dave Shields is going to go to 6. It looks like Alex was happy with his hand. Going to 6 on the draw.
The blue-black deck, as you were saying before, it mulligans pretty well. It's very consistent. It has a lot of redundant effects and a lot of land in the deck. So you have a deck that's pretty resilient to mulliganing, and especially after sideboarding, he has a lot of, as we're saying, just individually powerful cards. He can just win the game by just casting a Batterskull if it isn't answered. So it doesn't necessarily need the same sort of density of cards. So Alex, I think we saw a pair of swords in his hand. One Fire Ice. Hopefully, he has a sort of Fire Ice in his hand, or he's not going to be playing much more. But no, he has sort of a War and Feast and a sort of Feasted Bank. The swords are actually one of the really, really powerful types of cards against blue-black control. I think one of the reasons that blue-black control has got so much more popular, not only because it has a very good match against Wolf Run, but also because the versions of like Delver and such that played swords became less popular in the sort of response to the Rise of the Spirits version. And swords are one of the types of cards that makes the removal plan of the blue-black deck much less effective. You need to kill every single creature if there's a sword. So Diregraph Ghoul starts up for Alex, and tapped Drowned Catacomb for Dave. Ghoul gets in for 2. And this is a much faster start from Alex. Gravecrawler and a Fume Spitter. The Fume Spitter not super powerful here, but certainly can still attack. Dave certainly didn't sideboard out Consecrated Sphinx because he just drew one. One of the really interesting things about Fume Spitter in the zombie decks, it doubles as a removal spell and a way to reset Jarl's Messenger. The fact that the Undying creature gets a +1/+1 counter, well, Fume Spitter gives a -1/-1 counter, which removes that +1/+1, so it gives Jarl's Messenger another life. So, Go for the Throat takes out the Diregraph Pool. Dave takes 3. And I'm guessing Alex is going to resolve a sword right now. I think he's deciding which sword he wants.
Pro Black seems good.
Pro Black is pretty powerful against Blue Black control, but the War and Peace does a lot of damage. In a lot of situations, War and Peace actually ends up being better even if the protections are wrong, just because of how much it hits for. Here, Alex decides to go with the Feast and Famine, which I think is right. And Dave's hand is a bunch of expensive cards. He's gonna get Feast and Famine here.
He's gonna take a lot of damage before he ever has the opportunity to. There's Bloodline Keeper in his hand.
Yeah, he has Bloodline Keeper, Consecrated Sphinx, Think Twice and lands. So Alex is suiting up his Fume Spitter.
I'm not sure that means what you think it means. I'm not sure what suiting up means what you think it means.
Equipping his Fume Spitter with the Sword of Feast and Famine.
And getting into the red zone.
And Shields digs for a Tragic Slip with the Think Twice, does not find one. This is going to let Alex untap and play another sword. So Dave is in a pretty tough spot here. He needs to deal with everything.
Yeah, looks like he's probably going to run out of time.
I mean, right now he can only play a Bloodline Keeper, and that can't even block because of the Sword of Feast and Famine. And I think he actually just dies.
Well, especially if the War and Peace gets equipped as well, which seems like the right line of play for Alex.
Yeah, Shields cannot afford to.
Yep.
He's just dead. So as we were saying, Sword's pretty powerful against Blue Black, and in particular when they're combined with just efficient beatdown. The 2 power 1 cost creatures in the zombie deck give it the ability to put a lot of pressure on very quickly.
All right, so we're going to go to Game 3 here between Dave Shields and Alex MAJLATON. Round 15 of Grand Prix Baltimore 2012. I'm Sheldon Menery along with Brian Kibler. You can follow both of us on Twitter. Your Twitter handle is
BM Kibler.
Kibler. Obviously, mine is just my name, Sheldon Menery. You can follow GG's Live on Twitter. Follow Nate Price over on Price Progress. Although he says that he doesn't tweet much during events. He's got no time. He's in the control room, bringing you the graphics, controlling these cameras, so you can see the players' hands, the occasional pan-out shot of the players' faces. It was good work getting PB in distress last round. Any difference in the sideboard plan for Dave being on the play in Game 3?
I'm not sure. I think that, it's possible that cards like Mana Leak get better. I don't know if he had just sideboarded out all of his counter magic. It looked like he might have. Knowing that his opponent has a bunch of swords, I think he wants ways to deal with them. So I think if he took his Mana Leaks out, he may put. It looks like he's considering the gate. But he definitely wants a way to stop those swords, because if he doesn't have it, if he doesn't have counter magic in his deck, because he's just trying to go with the creature removal plan, he's not going to be able to beat those if they come back. So it looks like debating Phantasmal Image. I think if I were him, I wouldn't have Image in my deck. Image is pretty good in the matchup. Copying a Giralf's Messenger is nice, but you can't defend yourself with that because it comes into play tapped. Yeah, it looks like he's taking the Image out, and he's taking a Bloodline Keeper out, and maybe putting some amount of counter magic back in. One of the problems with a lot of the counter magic in this matchup is that the games go pretty long, because they just always go pretty long when you're playing Blue Black, which makes a card like Mana Leak get dead pretty quickly. But Mana Leak is so much better in the early turns of the game for stopping things like swords from coming down. On the play, you could theoretically have Dissipate in that spot and be able to counter the sword, but you end up being in a lot of mana inefficient situations if you play your deck against the beatdown deck like this.
Looked like Alex was looking at the Silvok Life Staff in his...
I saw that. I don't know if he just sideboarded it, if he just shuffled his whole sideboard in and just took them out one at a time or something. Because otherwise, I can't imagine why he would be considering the Life Staff here. seems a little peculiar. I mean, maybe it's better than some of his removal cards and such. Just the +1 power. I don't know.
Yeah, that'd certainly be an unusual strategy for him to go with. But like you said, if a card is dead,
yeah, hard to squeeze 55 with my shitty cantrips.
Started playing Magic.
So.
I know the
Corrosive Gales definitely in the sideboard. It looks like he did take out his guess verdicts. Looks like they're all in the sideboard, which I think is a little unusual because he hasn't seen Shields creatures yet. I guess Shields hasn't actually played one. He hasn't seen his hand.
Right.
We know that he. Right. And that's actually, I mean, Shields conceded rather than bother playing Bloodline Keeper, which does conceal that information that he's sideboarding in that way. I mean, he wouldn't have won if he cast Bloodline Keeper, right? So certainly makes more sense that way. That's one interesting thing that I think a lot of players don't really pay that much attention to, which is the information that you get from when a player concedes, or what information you want to be willing to give before you concede.
Right.
I was actually playing a match, not that long ago, where I was in a situation that was almost certainly dead, but I wanted to draw my card and then concede rather than concede on my opponent's turn, because I wanted to at least present the image that I could have an out to the situation. It's like, oh, maybe I have a Blasphemous around here. But anyway.
We see Alex is going to go to 6. His draw was devoid of lands. So
these are pretty important, even for an aggressive deck. You got to have at least one.
End up being able to send the trade, it will be from the big finish. So.
Where's the point when you go to when you're at 5?
As long as you have one solid finish, then you should.
That
once you get
you
close
think
to thresholds, then you start to.
My 4 is always just going to be worse.
I mean, if I'm at 5 cards and I can play spells in my hand, I will probably not mulligan to 4. If I have any amount of land, I mean, sometimes you have a 5-card hand and it's just land, 3 Titans or something.
Right.
Well, you're gonna have better luck with 4 cards in the hand, a lot of it depends on the sort of cards that you can your deck needs. Like a deck like Wolf Run, for instance, doesn't mulligan all that well anyway.
Right.
But if you have Titans and land versus you can mulligan to 4, and maybe your 4-card hand will be a ramp spell assault, and then you can draw a Titan. So, all right. Well, we see Shields opens it.
Is that
that's a Gravecrawler.
I think Alex kept the 1-lander.
Did he? I mean, he is playing a deck that has a lot of cheap cards, and I think that keeping 1-land hand isn't that bad.
Well, one of them was obviously the 1-drop, and one is a spell bomb.
I think I see 2 spell bombs in his hand actually, and he's going to play a Fume Spitter.
Now, Fume Spitter is obviously a 1-drop, but it's more there for the -1 counter for the Undying. Right. What do you think of replacing that with Hex Parasites?
Hex Parasite's interesting. I've definitely seen Hex Parasite out of the zombie decks for that reason. Fume Spitter, I think, is better in most matchups because, or rather, better in a lot of matchups because it can deal with things like Delvers,
right?
Just being a removal spell. The Hex Parasite's more providing you with that specific interaction of keeping your draw messengers around.
Well, there we see the spell bomb from Alex.
So Alchemy finds Batter Spell. I don't know if Shields has. Does he have land in his hand? He doesn't have another land. Yeah, it looks like he already has a Batter Spell, but I think he just wants to take Island here.
And Absurd Sweeps.
Looks like he does have Mana Lake in his deck. He just drew one, and I think Shields may just see it this turn. The opponent is stuck at 1 land, so he can't cast any particularly threatening cards next turn. Just clear the board. Yep.
Yeah, there's no sense. No sense in letting him sneak through any more damage.
Yep. So shuffles it back in. Alex is almost certainly going to crack the spellbomb in his turn, digging for land, unless he draws one right away. And I guess if it's on land, it's probably in play already. Oh, no, it was. Just slow rolled us. Had it. Distress. All right. And reveals a lot of problems that he wishes he could take. I think he has to take Batterskull.
Yeah, I mean, he knows that he can play around the mana leaks. Batterskull is going to kill him.
Yeah.
Whereas the mana leaks aren't. I mean, Liliana seems pretty dangerous for him too.
Yeah, the Liliana's an issue here, but Batterskull is actually just going to get the game out of reach. If Shields is able to play it next turn,
and start swinging.
Yeah, looking at Alex's hand, he has no answers to it. I think he almost certainly has to. Yeah, he does take the Batterskull. It looks like Alex has a Sylvok Life Step in his hand, by the way.
Yeah.
Cards.
Again, the answer to that might be had dead other cards.
So Shields does not draw a land. So I don't think he's going to go with the Liliana here. Because playing Liliana here, if Alex does a land, gives him an opening to play Geralt's Messenger. And Liliana does not match up well against Geralt's Messenger. Shields also has no cards he really wants to discard. So getting the Liliana down and plussing it doesn't really do very much. Looks like Alex did draw to the land. Thought it was a Catacomb. No, maybe not. So Spellbomb takes out David's graveyard.
Yep. You can draw a land.
Catacomb for another Spellbomb.
Okay.
What's David's thought about maybe mana leaking that?
I think he wants to hold on to the mana leaks here. His hand is such that he doesn't really have anything that the Spellbomb's immediately threatening. If he had a Fistful of Flashback and Snapcasters, maybe he'd consider it. But he's more concerned with just staying alive, I think. So I think he's going to play as Liliana now.
We got to his fifth land.
I don't know if he's
How
going to...
about the curse?
Curse doesn't match up very well against Messenger. Messenger gives him some problems if he lets it resolve next turn. He does have a go for the turn of his hand. I wonder if Shields is going to actually use Liliana this turn. It's actually
He doesn't want to discard it.
No, he is. So one thing that's interesting about Liliana is it's one of the few planeswalkers that you don't just automatically want to use every turn. You do see a lot of people who just plus the Liliana, but there's often a non-trivial number of situations where it's like, I'm just gonna hang out. Me and Liliana, we're just chilling.
Right. So Dave does pitch the go for the throat. Alex finds a use for that life staff.
Yeah. So Spellbomb's away. They go for the throat. Diagraph Captain. That will, I think,
Most certainly get mana leaked.
I actually thought he'd let that resolve because he has Liliana, and maybe he's just going to try and get Liliana to 6. Liliana at 6 doesn't really do that much in this matchup. It's obviously powerful, but it looks like he drew Tragic Slip. I think I may have considered letting that captain resolve and just forcing the sacrifice of Liliana. So Shields now only has 1 mana leak and a curse. I think he's considering playing curse now. If he curses here and Alex plays Messenger, I guess he can Liliana, but then Liliana gets killed by the Messenger when it comes back. Is it possible?
Discard.
Maybe he just thinks the threat of Liliana at 6, at 8.
They don't get revealed until.
Well, the Liliana Ultimate is a 6 loyalty, and it's basically factor fixing your opponent's permanents.
No.
You're looking
This
at
is
the
Liliana.
right
I'm looking at the real Liliana.
We're looking at Liliana of the Veil, but yeah, Liliana against
Right.
An aggro deck like this, the Liliana Ultimate will often be you lose like a land and a creature or 2 lands and keep a creature. It's certainly powerful.
So Alex tosses a land.
Looks like he has Captain, another Spell Bomb, and a Messenger in his hands. Goes for the Messenger. That's not going to resolve.
But he certainly knew that.
Yeah. He has to imagine there's a mana player.
Now the curse for sure.
Cursor. Discard.
And Liliana.
So now up to 6 counters. Alex has. That's a Messenger. I think that was off the top. Pretty sweet. I don't think it. Why did you put a counter on it? Yeah, it's not dead. Yeah. I was like, I'm confused. It's not dead yet. So now
Liliana becomes a little less attractive.
he shields us through a Tragic Slip, which is a very good draw in this position. He can use Liliana to force Messenger to sack, and then Tragic Slip it to actually get it off the board.
Yeah, I'm interested in understanding why Dave would want to kind of start living off the top.
I mean, his hand, he didn't really have all that much that he could hold in reserve. He discarded a land and
Go for the throat.
The go for the throat discard was the one that sort of surprised me, because that's a card that helps him get out of a lot of situations that could otherwise be problematic, like this one. But he did draw a Tragic Slip, so he can handle it. The ultimate Liliana? Is that what he's considering?
Looks like he's
I don't think I would
gone for the.
Yeah, I would just make him sad. Tragic Slip gets out of here.
Still costs him 2 life.
Yep. And now looks like Diagraph Captain's
Okay.
Rule's gonna come down.
Certainly, Game 3 of this match has played out in a fashion we didn't expect from either deck.
Yeah, this is definitely been very different than the last couple of games.
Okay.
Basically, we had a blowout in each direction between the first 2 games, and now we're seeing a lot more going on. All right, so Diagraph Captain makes that ghoul a 2/2 again. It's going to hit Liliana to 3.
Sure.
Good.
And then Gravecrawler, that Captain enables. All right, looks like Dave drew a Tragic Slip. That's going to kill the Captain, which is going to kill the Gravecrawler, since it loses its bonus toughness. That was a pretty good draw right there.
Well, back-to-back Tragic Slip.
Yeah.
You still lose a life.
And then Liliana's going to kill the Diagram.
They don't. This goes first.
I think the question is whether the Captain's ability triggers when the Gravecrawler dies, but the Captain's going to die first, which causes the Gravecrawler to die. Same business effect. Yep. Now, sword, huh? If that had been a Messenger, this could have been a bad spot for Dave. But, think twice.
It was a land.
Plays a land, pumps up Liliana. Get that thing twice waiting in the yard.
Flashback.
So this is now a pretty comfortable spot. Oh,
Whoops!
wow.
Discard.
From a stalemate, we have a consecrated Sphinx.
Yeah, that I think Dave got into some whoa,
Ooh.
Okay.
into some significant top decks.
Are they actually going to go to Sphinx War? Is this going to happen? I don't think Alex's deck can win the Sphinx War.
All right. I'll keep
the sphinxes trigger off of each other.
Right.
So
Okay.
Now-
About my triggers.
Dave can choose to draw more cards. I think. This is weird.
Well, this went from sort of kind of a sleepy match to something that's going to.
All of a sudden, there's really crazy things going on.
Now, remember, Dave's Sphinx is bigger than Alex's because of the curse.
Right. Dave also has the Liliana, which when he gets to his main phase can just kill the opposing
I'll say yes
phase.
to the first one.
And
Do I have to choose?
Dave
I
is
have
drawing
one.
off
I
of.
choose.
You can actually draw
You
4.
have 2 on this.
There's one for
I have
each.
1.
Alright. Is that what this leaves
Two
for?
for each.
Right, 2 for you.
You have 2.
Alright, so
Your 2 are here.
What's your here?
So it's your choice.
Oh, these are each trigger.
Yeah.
See the sudden avalanche of cards.
From living all the way off the top to.
I'm going to say yes to the first one.
Suddenly,
So it,
one of these players is wrong. Anytime you're in a situation like this, one of the players is wrong. I don't know who it is, but when both players think they want to keep drawing, usually,
Do that, yeah. I'll say yes to the first
wow,
one.
this is getting so crazy.
This is gone, and you have 2 here.
you guys keep an account on how many cards got drawn this turn? I mean, somebody might have a cerebral vortex.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, at least we do see that both players are evaluating each draw
Right.
based on the cards that they drew.
Yep. Each of the triggers goes on individually, so you choose when the trigger resolves whether you're going to draw these cards.
Correct.
So, I don't know if Alex is looking for something in particular, or if Dave's looking for something in particular, or what exactly. The fact that it's Dave's turn means that he's going to have the first opportunity to play all these cards with his.
We
with his
each
mana.
you have the option
Alex,
right now.
mostly his deck is
You have
sorcery
two
speed
here.
stuff. It's
To draw
mostly
2, 4,
creatures.
6, 8,
So
and I still have an option to draw 2, 4, 6, 8.
it seems like there's less he can do with the options that he's getting.
Okay, so then this goes.
Do you think
I'm just going to put
he's
this. It doesn't matter
hoping
with the
for
snap order.
just drawing in? Remember,
Mine's gonna go
Dave's
6
at
now,
11.
so yes,
Right.
He's going to try to hope to draw
Yours is
into.
at 4. It's going to go up to 6.
Well, I mean, with only 5 lands, Dave
No,
drawing
you
a
say yes
fistful
to
of
it,
cards
so
with a bunch of
we're
lands
both at
up.
5
You
and
know
we're
he's going to
both
keep a
drawing
lot of counter
It's
magic.
your turn to act out.
And the power level of the stuff that's in Dave's deck too. I mean, like he has 6 drops. He has stuff like Consecrated. And he draws into another giant monster. Yeah, that's gonna be difficult for Alex to deal with the number of lands he has to play. He can only cast so many spells.
And if Dave gets
Just keep going.
Alex into this sort of overexcited situation where it's I'm drawing cards, and he hasn't played a land yet.
Yeah.
Drown Yard sure could be one of the cards that he draws, and then he's turned all those draws for Alex
Into Mills.
Mills.
How many cards is in Shield's hand now? This
Well,
is crazy.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
I'm allowed to look at my sideboard, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what Alex is thinking. He's got to be thinking, well, I have a plan here. I just can't wrap my brain around what that plan might be.
And this is definitely the sort of situation where you have to figure out what's going on and before you start, because there's no going back. And it's the implications of the additional cards, I think, are much stronger from Dave's position because he has a lot more mana to use, and I mean just a lot more like high impact cards in his deck. Alex's deck has a lot of redundancy and a bunch of zombies. But if play a bunch of zombies in his next turn.
I'm saying no down to 5.
Maybe Dave didn't draw Black Sun Zenith from the 25 cards he drew.
Right.
But I think the war might be over. We may be going to the main phase. I don't see any more cards being drawn.
Alright, I'm done. past. I'm done drawing.
Okay. Okay.
Whatever, until we go down slowly.
So Rashad tells us.
I'm going to say yes.
All right.
Uh-oh. And Alex is drawing again. Now he wants more.
This isn't magic.
And that reevaluates Dave's plan.
I don't know.
All right. I'm gonna go ahead.
Again, I'm still.
They both passed.
And I think that there's
just
wait.
wanted two more. Just two more.
And there's like we said, there's the drown yard. So those 14 or 15 cards that Alex drew are just put him a quarter of his deck closer to getting milled out.
Sphinx dies to Liliana. So now, I mean, I don't know that Alex could win from the position that he was in before, because facing a Sphinx with no cards, you're just going to lose.
Right.
But he drawing a bunch of cards at least, maybe Shields, somehow doesn't have the answers to what he has, he draws off this. But.
Alex is in a sort of lost situation anyway.
Right.
So he's got to give himself the best, even if the chance is thin.
Yeah.
He's got to give himself the best opportunity to win, or at least affect the match. Nate Price over in the booth. Can we? We didn't get a standings after the round. Can we?
Apparently someone was asking if I could shuffle that many cards. I probably couldn't. At least not with the same sort of speed that I normally do.
There's a ratchet bomb.
Which just has his deck in his hands. He doesn't have a hand of cards. He's actually just. This looks like he's like sideboarding rather than deciding to discard.
He's certainly going to keep a mana leak. He's going to. Looks like he's keeping another Sphinx. All right, now I'm not sure which pile is which. Which is the discard pile, and which is the I'm going to keep pile.
He's discarding a bunch of lands.
Yeah.
Can only play one of them a turn.
How many more turns do you think this game has is the question, that he's got to ask himself. So.
All right, I'll go to discard.
It looks like he's asking the question of Alex. I want to go to discard. No? Okay.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
It looks like he kept Snapcaster, Negate, Worm Coil, Drown Yard, another Liliana. Or was that a Sorin? I don't think it's a Sorin.
Yeah,
that must be the Liliana. And now he gets to keep drawing because his Sphinx is still in play.
The Negate came out of that. Yeah, looking a little rough for Alex right now, I think. Unless he has some perfect storm of cards in his hand. I mean, he knows David has counter magic, but he's got to play through it. He's got to force cards in. Dave doing the count, the drown yard count. Looks like around 20-something. Mid-20s. Okay, Rashad Miller verifying mid-20s.
Let's start with the spell bomb. Maybe not.
Captain seems like a relevant card.
That is a card that can do something.
So why would you think that he would lead with it?
Well, because right now he has the mana to play around Mana Leak. If Shields Mana Leaks this, he can pay, and if he plays something else first, his Captain is vulnerable to Mana Leak. It looks like Shields may just Mana Leak it anyway. Yeah. And if Alex pays here, which it looks like he's going to do, he's going to discard so many of those cards he just drew. That's all his mana.
And he can't equip the captain.
It looks like he's letting it go. Well, the mana leak when you have 3 open mana is always a tough spot. It's like, well, what do they want here?
What do you think? I mean, sometimes the Man Elite player just kind of throws it out there to make you sort of force you into the devil of choices.
In particular, in control mirror matches, the Man Elite to tap you out is often just the correct play. It looks like we got double Man Elites. Snapcast brought back that Man Elite.
Coming into this round 15, Dave is 12-1-1, and Alex is 12-2. So they're definitely fighting for a spot at the top table. Dave might be a little more loss or draw resilient than Alex, but would probably still mean having to win in the last round.
If Dave wins this, he may be able to draw in the next round. Actually, either player who wins has a good chance of being able to.
Yeah, I think when we were talking to Jackie Lee last round, she's at 13-1. She's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I can draw.
I don't know if there's anyone who could draw with her this round, but
right.
Alex drops to 10 life. And
who's the beat down?
Discard.
Plus up Liliana, I'm not sure is going to end up being relevant.
It gives him the ability to force a sacrifice next turn, but yeah, he's very much in the driver's seat, regardless of.
I'm not, especially looking over Alex's deck list. He would need to resolve 6 messengers or something.
Yeah, I mean this game was really basically just decided the turn that Dave drew Sphinx. It was in a very tight spot until then, and then the game sort of spiraled out of control for Alex.
Well, Alex would have been in a lot better position without the back-to-back tragic slips too.
Right. Yeah. Those 2 tragic slips were very, very good, and if Alex had a guess verdict for that Sphinx, he would have still very much been in the game.
Well, here's Wormcoil Engine. I think that's a heavy nail on top of the coffin for Alex.
That may be just the writing on the wall. Dave draws. Dave see he is in danger of decking himself.
Yeah, it'd be pretty funny to see Alex come up with a EOT Blue Sun Zenith.
He can only fire it off for 3 right now, even if he had it. But
well, I mean, we saw Thought Scour win a match earlier on an empty library, so
distress. I imagine that will likely just get negated. Another spell bomb.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm going to draw a card and let you draw a couple more.
Well, is Dave not drawing from the Sphinx here?
It's like he's chosen not to.
A lot of times people actually forget the Sphinxes that aren't your draw step draw. They're like, you draw your card for your draw step, I'll draw with my Sphinx. I actually was playing once and drew 6 from my Garrett while my opponent had a Sphinx to play, and he didn't draw his 12 cards. Kind of have to hope they forget sometimes. And there it is. There's the handshake. So, backed by Consecrated Sphinx and many, many, many cards.
And a pile of card draw.
Yeah, Dave Shields takes the first. We had some interesting situations go up.
Like I said, that game certainly didn't play out exactly like the book would have suggested. I think Dave telling Alex right here, I'm not sure you did the right thing by letting me draw those cards.
Yeah, I don't really know what sort of after-match banter going on there, but I think this locks Dave Shields up for top if he's going to draw next round. So.
Relatively sure, especially if he doesn't tear down. He's going to